Well, students, now we will continue our poem, The Lotus Eaters. So far, we have read that when they reach the source of the island of Lotapegoi and the Lotus Eaters Island, there Ulysses has addressed to his sailors, to his comrades, that look there we have the land. They reaches the land in the afternoon, and then the poet starts narrating the landscape of that land, of that island. That there it all seemed a very peaceful or a very languid. No, nothing is in hurry. Everything seems to be very peaceful, very leisurely. Now, next, a land of streams, some like a downward smoke, slow dropping veils of thinnest lawn did go, and some through wavering lights and shadows broke, rolling a slumbrous sheet of foam below. They saw the gleaming river seaward flow from the inner land, far off three mountain tops, three silent pinnacles of aged snow, stood sunset flushed and dewed with showery drops. Up clomb the shadowy pine above the woven copse. The charmed sunset lingered low adown in the red west. Through mountain clefts the dale was seen far inland, and the yellow down bordered with palm, and many a winding vale and meadow sat with slender galingale, a land where all things always seemed the same. Now again, uh, giving us a picturesque account of that island of lotus eaters, the poet goes on to say that a land of streams, so many streams are there. The land, the island which they can see from that place, it seemed full of streams. So many streams are there. Some like a downward smoke, self slow dropping veils of thinnest lawn did go. Some of those streets, they are going, falling downward like a downward smoke, the smoke which usually goes upward, but here they have metaphorically compared it to that downward smoke, that some like downward smoke, slow dropping veils of thinnest lawn. Like the lawn, when it is on some stage performance, the falling of the stream is shown through the falling of lawn, a silk cloth. So he is comparing it to that, that like some slow dropping veils of that lawn, they are moving downwards, and some through wavering lights and shadows broke, and some of them, they are breaking through, they are being visible through the wavering lights and shadows of the trees, of the shrubs, of the plantation there, and they are rolling a slumberous sheet of foam below, and below where it falls on the land, and where it starts flowing towards the sea or towards the inland areas, there the foam which is created through the falling of the water, it is again, look at the use of the words, slumberous sheet of foam. It's again a sleepy sheet of foam, as it happens that the water flows below the foam, and the sheet of foam seems to be unmoved. So that sheet of foam they create below on the land where they it fall. They saw the gleaming river seaward flow from the inner land, and from that place they have also seen the river which was flowing towards the sea from the inner land, from the inner areas of the island, far off three mountain tops, and at some far off distance they can also see three mountain tops, three silent pinnacles of aged snow. Again, the same thing, that monotony is being highlighted, that these three silent pinnacles, the tops, the peaks of aged snow, means since ages there is no difference in the visibility, in the snow, in the physique of these mountains, they are there in the same position, unchanged through ages, stood sunset flushed, and they are flushed, they are being illuminated, they are being lighted by the sunset, and dewed with showery drops, and they are dewed with showery drops of mist. Up clomb the shadowy pine above the woven copse, and from the woven copse, from the woven thickets, from the woven shrubs, the pine trees are climbing upwards. The charmed sunset lingered low adown in the red west, and as it is the time of evening, the sunset is taking place, and even it has a charmed, as if some magic is being done by that sunset. So it is lying down, means it is going down in the red west. Through mountain clefts, the dale was seen far inland, and the dale, the valley was being seen up to a very far distance, and many a winding vale and meadow sat with slender gillingill, and many means many valleys are there, many meadows are there, and they are being seen from that place up to a far place, through that thicket, through those tangled hubs and shrubs and all those things. A land where all things always seem the same, means the summary of this stanza, that this place is a land, is a place where all things always seemed the same, nothing is changed, means again that lethargic atmosphere, that atmosphere of inactivity, that atmosphere of unchangedness is being summed up. And round about the keel, with faces pale, dark faces pale against that rosy flame, the mild-eyed, melancholy lotus eaters came. And here, the poet and his comrades, the first of all, has encountered the inhabitants of that island. It says, and round about the keel, round about the ship, with faces pale, with pale faces, means lack of energy, lack of eagerness, lack of zeal, lack of activity is being shown from those pale faces. Dark faces pale against that rosy flame of sunset. The faces were dark and they were being lit. They were being shown as pale against that rosy flame of sunset. The mild-eyed, those eyes, they were also very mild, very peaceful, very kind eyes. They were melancholy lotus eaters came. The inhabitants of the island, the lotus eaters, they came, means to welcome them, to greet them, to meet them, to see them, that who these people are, those lotus eaters, they came. Branches they bore of that enchanted stem, laden with flower and fruit, whereof they gave to each, but whoso did receive of them and taste, to him the gushing of the wave far, far away did seem to mourn and rave on alien shores, and if his fellow spake, his voice was thin as voices from the grave, and deep asleep he seemed yet all awake, and music in his ears his beating heart did make. They sat them down upon the yellow sand, between the sun and moon upon the shore, and sweet it was to dream of fatherland, of child and wife and slave. But evermore, most weary seemed the sea, weary the oar, weary the wandering fields of barren foam. Then someone said, we will return no more, and all at once they sang, our island home is far beyond the wave, we will no longer roam. Now, the poet goes on to describe the effect of the eating of that fruit, lotus, on him and his fellow beings. He says the melancholy lotus eaters they came, and branches they bore of that enchanted stem, and they were wearing the branches of that stem, that tree, that fruit of lotus, laden with flower and fruit. And those branches, they were loaded, they were full of flowers and fruits. Means they were. It is a fruiting season, and they are loaded with flower and fruit, whereof they gave to each, and those branches or those fruits they have given to each of us, means in a greeting manner, in a welcoming approach, they has given those branches or those fruits to each of us. But whoso did receive of them and taste, but the person who has eaten them and who has tasted them, who has had that effect, that charm on him. And what is that charm? To him the gushing of the wave far, far away did seem to mourn and rave on alien shores. The sea, which was just they have left behind, on whose shore they were sitting, but the gushing of waves, the sea waves, which is very near to them, it seemed to them mourning, lamenting, having sad music in it on alien shores, not on that seashore on which they were sitting, but on some alien shores which is far, far away from them. And if his fellow spake, and if someone who is sitting beside that person, if he spoke something, his voice was thin as voices from the grave. And to the person who is hearing that voice, to him it appears that as if that voice is some ghostly voice coming from some grave, as if they are dead. The person who is speaking beside him, who is whispering beside him, it seemed to him that that sound is coming from that grave, means very far that voice seems to be coming to him. And deep asleep he seemed, yet all awake. And that the person all, to himself or to his companion, they seemed deep asleep, as if they are in some deep sleep, but still they are all awake. They were not sleeping, they seemed sleeping. That is the effect of that tree, that fruit, lotus, that when they have eaten it, it seems as if they are at some very distant place where there is no sea nearby to them, where no one is near to them. All the sounds they seems to be coming from a very distant place, and they seems to be in a deep sleep. And music in his ears his beating heart did make, and the beating sound of their heart was like music to them, means they seem so cut off from the outer world that no sound is coming to them, no movement is being visible to them. The only sound which they are able to hear was the beating of their heart. They sat them down upon the yellow sand, and after eating that fruit they sat down on that yellow sand of the island, the seashore beach, and very peacefully they sat there between the sun and moon upon the shore. And on one side it was sunset, the sun was there, and on the other side it was moon was there, and between these two they sat down very peacefully upon the seashore. And sweet it was to dream of fatherland, of child and wife and slave. And sitting there, when they in that half sleep, in that mood of forlornness, when they dreamed of their fatherland, of their wife, of their children, of their slaves, of their kingdom, then it seemed very sweet to them to just sit silently there and dream of those kinsmen, those family members of theirs. But evermore most weary seemed the sea. But all these things which seems weary, which seems melancholy, which seems sad to them all, the most weary thing was the sea. Weary the oar, the seaports, they also seemed weary to them, and weary the wandering fields of barren foam, and that sea which they loved so much, which they loved so much to roam, that sea now seemed them as useless. It is just a barren field of that foam. Then someone said, and in that mood of inactivity, in that mood of laziness, someone said that we will return no more. That we will no more go to the sea, we will no more travel anymore. And all at once they start. They sing. They start singing at once. Means as soon as they heard this sound, and as it was the mood of them all, they at once start singing that our island home is far beyond the wave. the island home to which we are going, it is very far beyond the way, beyond these sea waves. We will no longer roam. Now we will no longer roam, we will no longer travel, we will stay here, we will remain here, because the island home to which we are going, it is far beyond the sea waves. And so this is the effect of that fruit, lotus, which they have eaten, that they have lost that zeal to return to their home, the home which they were longing so much to go back, from which they have been away for a long 10 or 12 years, but still they don't want to move. So the effect of that fruit, it has been very inactivity producing, that they don't want to move any further. Now we will read the choric song in the next lesson.